Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to give it just a minute more to see if we can get a quorum to get the meeting started. Yeah. Okay, we are going to, I will be calling the meeting to order, at which point we have a quorum here. But at this point, we're going to get into um, the conversation on trustee role and tenure review. I just want to make a note at the top of the meeting here that the meeting will be recorded. And I will ask Dr. Izano to go ahead and start us in the discussion around tenure review.
Sounds good. Thank you, Board Chair. Good morning, everyone. Hello. Hi, everyone online. Thank you, Danielle, for having this PowerPoint up for all of us. It's that time again, tenure. The tenure season is here. So we are busy in academic affairs and in the next couple of weeks, you will be receiving information on the wonderful probationers that will be in front of you. So today I just wanted to highlight again the work that we'll be doing together. So the first slide, Danielle, thank you. Just so you know, we're going to upload the tenure packets for you at the close of business day, January 30th on Friday. If you feel so excited after 5 o'clock on Friday to start looking through the tenure packets, please feel free. We did put into the documents in the shared drive that it is available February 2nd, but we want to try and get it to you as early as possible if you feel so moved to start looking at it at that. I know that the next board meeting is when you vote, which is February 19th. So it gives about 3 weeks for you to look over about 25 tenure packets that you will be receiving. So just as an overview, we have 10 individuals who are going through their first year, 6 individuals who are going through their second year of the process, and then 9 individuals who are in their third year in the process. So I did state here that when you read the reports, the vote for you trustees is to grant tenure or continuation of probation or non-renewal of the probationer's contract or denial of tenure. So those are the votes that you have in front of you. Under section 4.9.1 of the CBA, this is the CBA's language, and there's a whole section in one of the handouts that talks about the excerpts from the CBA that's specific to the tenure book, the tenure process. Okay, so the next, and then additional documents will be shared with you. It's in the shared drive. So in the shared drive, what you will find is a document that's the tenure information for the Board of Trustees. It has excerpts from the CBA. The next, it's not on the slide here, but I'm just giving you a preview of what handouts will be in there. So there's going to be a tenure review process overview that gives kind of a process timeline of what we're doing in academic affairs until the handoff to you. And then there's a tenure information for you, again, high level of who is going through the tenure process. And then there's another document that talks about how to read a tenure review folder. And then another document that talks about the revised criteria for tenure that our tenure probationers need to make sure that we are adhering to the tenure process here at Highline. And then lastly, a checklist for dates for quarterly reports and meetings. Okay. All right, so these are the folks in front of you, year 3, who are going through the tenure process. This vote here would be either to grant tenure or not. So year 2, probationers going into quarter 4, the vote in front of you would be to continuation of their tenure or not. And then lastly, our first group of probationers are here and they're going through quarter 1. And then your vote in front of you would be continuation of tenure or not. And then I know that Trustee Travis had asked for a sample, like a cover sheet to include into the packet. So I did provide a draft. So if you feel like this is sufficient, it does show a little bit about who the probationer is and then the vote of the TRC. If this is, if you need anything more, let me know, and then I can make sure to revise that so that when you have it in front of you on January 30th after 5, I can revise it.
Okay, thank you for doing that. We really appreciate it. I think that's something that was shared by all of us, just make sure we didn't, you know, lose the forest through the trees in what we were reading. So that's helpful as far as I'm concerned. I think that perhaps if we could just make sure we share that with Travis as well. Thank you for taking the time to do that. It's appreciated.
You're welcome. And please let me know if anything, y'all need any other questions. I don't know how that it goes through Danielle or to me. I will answer whatever I can.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, we are going to go ahead and move on to our next item. And that is the review of the student fees schedule for proposed motion and action in February. So we have Marco Torres Lopez for microphone today.
Lopez Torres.
Lopez Torres. Oh, I'm sorry.
You can just say Lopez.
I'm got it.
Good morning, everybody. Most of the fees basically will stay the same way they were last year, well, this year. We're looking at basically increasing the first aid certificate because the Red Cross has increased the fees that they charge to us. And we are looking at adding 2 new fees, one for journalism and one for the cruise line in the hospitality department. And the other will be just an increase for.
Marco, is your mic on? Okay.
Yeah, so, okay, so let me backtrack. So the cruise line and the teaching testing fee, those will be the two new fees. We had the nursing fee. I listed it on the sheet. That's just because we are going to make a change, but that was already approved last month. So I highlighted it in yellow. And then the one that will go up will be the first aid certificate that will just go up by $10. So we would like to have these fees reviewed and probably approved next month. You have a sense of, from what percent by that? They're pretty specific programs. Is this, um, so I would be able to tell you because it's based on the program. So some are for journalism, some are for hospitality. I'm happy to review how many students will be impacted. So a few years ago, we did compare our fees overall, not just for specific programs, and we were actually below some other colleges. And we are trying not to charge a lot to students to keep our program cost low, but at the same time, we also are aware that our costs from our vendors are going up, and we want to make sure that we're breaking even when we pay those fees to our vendors.
And it looks like we now have a quorum, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is January 22nd. This is the study session for Highline College Board of Trustees meeting, and let the minutes reflect that we have trustees Bowman, trustee Johnson, and myself, trustee Swenson, present at this time. We just talked about the trustee role and tenure review with Dr. Izanu. Thank you for that. Lots more information that will be available on the website for us to review in advance of that tenure process. The packets will be uploaded on Friday, January 20th, and then, I'm sorry, January 30th. Thank you. Sorry. Friday, January 30th, and then the review will be conducting conversation and voting on February 19th at our board meeting. So just a heads up on those dates. And then we just had the review of the proposed 2026-27 student fee schedule for proposed motion in February as well. If you have any additional questions about that, if you missed that, Trustee Johnson, please reach out to Dr. Pham for anything you have questions on there. Okay, we're going to move on to updates to recommendations received in the 2025 Accountability Audit Management Letter. And we'll start off with theft-sensitive assets, policies, and procedures. Hand the floor to Tim.
Sure, thank you. I'm going to note up front that Trustee Ekstrom had specific interest in this topic and he's not present, but since we're recording, he can review it later and follow up as needed. I'm also going to call out that Melanie showed me up by bringing you all a bunch of paper, and I am just going to share verbally. So in the accountability audit that we had in the spring. The date of the letter was May 2nd. And this was a management letter. It's not a finding. It's just a, hey, this is something we noticed and something that you need to have rectified by the time we return in 3 years. And one of those things was titled Theft Sensitive Assets, Policies, and Procedures, which internally we talk about as the small and attractive inventory. The letter said that the college needed to update its policies and procedures to ensure they're effective in safeguarding, tracking, and accounting for all theft-sensitive items, including items to be surplused, ensuring that its policy accurately reflects processes and controls over safeguarding of theft-sensitive assets. I'm having trouble reading this morning, I apologize. And updating the master inventory list and performing a regular inventory check of all theft-sensitive assets, including a reconciliation to the master list. So just to start, I will acknowledge that going into this audit, we knew this was probably going to be an issue. This was not something we were unaware of. None of this is excuse, it's just explanation. We had not had an accountability audit in, I want to say 9 years. It's something that is, going into the pandemic, the auditor's office kind of tailed off on doing for the colleges. And so we had not had an external reminder about paying attention to this. At the same time, a few factors contributed to us being in the state we were. One of them was that we were going through a lot of systems change with CTC Link and things like that. And the small and attractive inventory is not a function in that system. So it's something we have to devise and maintain locally. Also officially, the policy and the ownership of that master list lives in purchasing. However, the vast majority of those items are IT related items. There's a few odd categories like weapons, which public safety has some of on the inventory, but most of these things are IT. We had last updated our policy in 2014, and that policy dictates which items are included in this inventory. So a definition of item types, cost thresholds, things like that. And because purchasing maintained the master list and IT had most of the assets, and we did not have a shared database, we had historically relied on essentially manually updates from IT to purchasing when things changed. The other thing that complicated this and the call out of items to be surplused is that during the pandemic, the state surplus office where we are required to send surplus items stopped taking deliveries. It was partially, it was a staffing, it was a contact issue at the time, and we got very, very backed up. We are still backed up from that. The surplus office has started to take things back, but we only have so much physical space to stage and so much time to process. So that backup is taking a while to clear. So when the auditors came out, due to the gap in time of them being here and that backup, they had a longer, the way they check us is they pick a list of random items from the list and they ask us to produce them. Because of that time gap, because of our surplus backup, they had a much bigger list to choose from, and they chose older items, which are going to be harder to find. And so they're calling out as of 25 things they asked us for, we couldn't find 9 of them. And all of the ones we couldn't find were, I think the newest one was 6 years old, and it was a small device that had been bought for a classroom lab. Like, they weren't super high risk items. We didn't lose any items with college data, anything like that. But quantitatively, we couldn't find 9 of the items that they were asking for. Like I said at the beginning, we were already aware of this. This is actually a conversation we're already having. The biggest thing we wanted to bridge is the separation of the database between purchasing and ITS, because having 2 data stores and a manual process to sync them up to problems like this. And so we had already been investigating software to deal with this problem, talking to other colleges about what they are using and had actually chosen a product, just hadn't implemented it yet. When we had that discussion with the auditor, they said, great, we're reporting on your current circumstance. If you do what you're telling us you're going to do, you're going to be just fine when we come back in 3 years. And so we moved forward on that project. The software, which is called Snipe IT, is open source, so it's no cost to us, fortunately. My team installed it and got it configured, and in August, we reset our inventory processes. And so going forward from now, we started with importing the list the purchasing had, and then going through and verifying the list and adding things that might have been missing. And essentially, this is going to be a year-long process before we know exactly how everything worked. We're now about 5 months into it, and we started in August. So one of the requirements is that we're doing an annual verification of that master list. And so by next August, we have to be able to show that we have done that full verification. One of the benefits of this tool is that it has a clear field for the last update of every item, which is not something the old database had. So we kind of had to rely before on, we've checked what we have in front of us and we've updated the things, but now we have a clear indication of what items have and haven't been checked, so that when we come back to the annual checkup, we can say, these are the ones we haven't validated within the last year, and we need to make sure. Along with that, we are going to need to do some policy and process updates. As I indicated, the last time that policy was updated was in 2014. And so as we go through and dial in our processes and learn this new tool, we will go back and propose an update to that policy that will probably both redefine the the items to be included in the list, and will have some more specificity about this annual policy and process. Yeah, so that's where we are at on this. Are there any questions or clarifications?
I had one question about, so when you're talking about doing an annual inventory for the devices that are on campus here, are those devices being used like in individual classrooms sometimes, or are they mostly IT team focused devices, or like
Oh, no,
who has
like,
those things?
every one of these staff laptops here is on that list.
Got it.
Really, the items that qualify for this audit at this point are essentially mobile devices over $500. We have redefined it so things that are not, because it's small and attractive, it's theft sensitive, things that are most likely to be stolen. So anything that would be able to be picked up and walked away from, or is excessively attractive to somebody. One of the things we will probably change when we update our policy is, currently the policy includes projectors like that. In the early 2000s, we had a rash of people actually breaking into rooms on campus and stealing those projectors off the ceiling. They are no longer attractive assets to people out in the world like they were. So it's no longer something we need to give as much attention. So when we revisit the policy, that's something we will probably stop tagging this way.
Sure.
But anything like this, that's always going to be attractive, always going to be mobile and risky, are the things we need to do it. So that does bring up one other issue with the audit, is like, not all of these devices are on campus, especially as we've gone to mobile first with employees, and especially as people are working hybrid. Often these devices are off campus as people are working off campus. And so, and one of our issues was, we did our audit reset in August. Lots of faculty are off contract, they're not here. We had to come back and follow up with a lot of faculty in September and October after they came back from the break. So figuring out what our expectation and what our communication is with those employees to make sure that we are verifying their device at least once. One of the things we're gonna have to figure out.
Okay. Are there questions from the other trustees about this? I'm glad that we are recording so that Travis will be able to listen to it as well. Other questions, Trustee Bowman or Trustee Johnson?
No questions for me.
No questions. Thank you, Tim.
for the work that you continuously do to keep us safe. And just alone the password journey you walk along with me, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you.
Welcome. Thank you.
The password journey is right. Okay, we will go ahead and move on to payroll. Special and retroactive earnings as extra compensation, and Melanie is going to take us through that. There were a couple handouts in the room here, and then I think there's information on the site as well. So I'll turn it over to Melanie. Thank you it's nice to see you. Good to see you. Thank you.
So
I don't know if the mic
Do I
volume
need
is
it
low
here?
because Joe said he was having a problem sharing and mine has been on as well.
I can hold it here if that's better.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. So the audit showed a lot of things that happened prior to my arrival. So I had to do a lot of digging to understand what needed to be addressed. Essentially, what it boiled down to was they needed a policy to define how employees can earn special or retroactive pay. The audit found that there were employees who, whether it be via a grievance process or through the state making changes to compensation, ended up getting excessive amounts of back pay, and that there's not a policy that kind of defined parameters of what that should look like institution-wide. The second part regarding special pay has to do with stipends and pay for additional work that employees receive. And we don't have guidelines around what that should look like. So in front of you all are a proposed policy that I created where I have paper, Tim has words. So when I hear that there's a concern, my mind goes straight to just draft a policy to get this thing going. And so that's what you have in front of you. It defines scope, definitions, what the eligibility criteria are for special pay, what the procedures are to make sure that we are consistent in how we are doing it. There's a couple things I kind of noted that I need to add, and that is getting a little bit more grounded in the stipend process. Sometimes we get stipend requests that give me a little pause in terms of whether or not it is less or more than an employee would get in overtime pay, particularly as you are giving stipends to folks that are doing work across departments, folks that are overtime eligible. I think what we currently do well is we define what the additional work is on the actual request. We just need it put in a policy. So as you can see on there, it says things like defining exactly what is different from their current tasks day to day that requires a stipend versus their regular pay that they're already receiving. And yeah, so everything's right there on the draft. That's pretty much, you have any questions? I do anticipate adding some additional language just kind of around the stipend process, but everything else is in the review.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So Melanie, you mentioned that when there was a check or an audit it found that there were a number of employees with this frequent compensation piece of things. Was that here specifically, or the state was finding that across?
Here specifically. Mhm.
Are questions from the trustees?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sitting here thinking about all of the exercises we've gone through with collective bargaining agreements and COLAs and things of that nature. And I don't know why that's jumbled in my mind in making sure that this stays equitable in the process, especially folks receiving compensation in addition to stipends. I think I heard you say that. I want to make sure I'm clear. Stipends in addition to compensation. If that's not the case, then I'll correct that. But how are we faring with all of the other things that go alongside keeping up to date with compensation?
That's a good question. Really, the biggest thing that comes to mind with that question is stipends as it pertains to our classified staff, because we have guidelines we have to stay within for OFM in terms of compensation. And so when I speak to the stipend piece, that is exactly what I'm thinking about that needs to be added to this, because it's difficult to pay a classified employee a stipend that puts them outside the OFM range. So I imagine that there will be some discussions with the union on what that could potentially look like. As an example, training pay that will be coming up if the legislature passes the budget for that. You know, how will we compensate? What if that 10% premium puts them above the OFM amount? So yes, that is a piece that I've already thought about that will be added to this, that will require some discussion with the union
I appreciate
and
that.
OFM. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I guess the only other question I have is, do we feel like it was just something that we needed documentation policy around, or did our audit find that it seems that there's a pattern of abuse of the system?
I don't gather that they found there was abuse. There just needed to be parameters for us to stay within. Yeah.
I'm just gonna add to that, like Melanie had a conversation because several of the cases they identified were on my team. And it was work that HR did in reaction to position classification appeals that OFM processed and approved and told us we had to react to. So we were reacting to direction from OFM, but then the auditor's office felt we didn't have enough documentation around that action. And so that's the loop that they asked HR to close with a policy.
Yeah, that was the retro pay piece.
Any other questions about the process or the policy? Thank you for bringing that to us, and please, keep us posted as it gets as it goes through the other review and then gets approved. Okay. All right. We are going to then move on to our next item, which is a conversation around our presidential recruitment, which is something that we really need to get into pretty quickly here in terms of the activities around this search. And I wanted to just kind of open up the discussion today. I kind of went through and put down a number of thoughts that I had as I started to have conversations with colleagues that have gone through presidential searches recently, as well as the state board resources that are available. And so I wanted to just kind of talk through a few of the things that came up during those conversations that I found. And then would like to understand kind of what the next steps are. And Justin, maybe you can give a sense as to whether or not we need to add anything to the agenda on moving forward the process or not. We might need to vote on something in general to get things going. But really, I think our goal is to have a structured, transparent, inclusive process for finding a college president. And again, these are not all inclusive of all the things out there. These are just kind of my notes and a rundown on the things that I found and heard from others, read up on best practices when we are thinking about, what are the best practices, potential stakeholder engagement, equity considerations, and then, starting to think about the timeline that we might want to be on. So I'm just going to step through this. So bear with me because this is not, there's a lot of information that I had here, but I think that, what I heard by and large was that the board often agreed on 2 trustees to serve as co-chairs to lead the process on behalf of the board. And that would be something that they would be working closely together. They would be meeting with the internal team on it. But again, that 2 trustee co-chair type of setup means that we're not running afoul of any of our meeting rules and quorum rules. So having 2 people that are going to be playing a lead role from the board is what I heard was ideal from most of the organizations I talked to. That the board retains final hiring authority. Internal search team, there was a recommendation. Clearly, the HR lead needs to be engaged in the process. Our AAG needs to be engaged in the process. Many of the other institutions had 1 additional exec team member that it varied from institution to institution that were also engaged in the process. So that's something that we might want to think about doing again. So you kind of have a team leading the process from the board and the executive team. responsibilities that the internal staff team helped lead were, included things like coordination with the search firm, if that's what the decision that we make to go forward with the search firm, internal communications, oftentimes logistics and stakeholder engagement in coordination with the board co-chairs. There was definitely, a lot of, most of the organizations and schools talked about having some sort of advisory input, and that usually came in terms of an interview panel that might have representatives from faculty, staff, students, community partners, any mix of those. That the interview panel would be there oftentimes to work with the consultant and to review the candidates, provide structured feedback on the candidates in order to help, I think, narrow the field. But again, the final hiring decision does lay with the board. Can everybody hear me okay on line two? I just want to make sure. Okay, great. So in most cases, actually, for all of the individuals and schools that I chatted with, they retained a search firm for the process, and it feels like that's the way that we want to go. They cited a typical cost for a search firm landing somewhere in the range of $70,000 to $80,000. And I think that there is some threshold where if it exceeds a certain amount of money, then an RFP process is required, which does then lengthen the process. So I'm not sure what that threshold is, Justin, so that would be helpful to anything over 35.
Choose from, and you have a much better chance of getting a good search firm that will get you a good question.
Okay. Will you just double check that number for us? For some reason, people were saying $100,000, which is really different. But that might be outdated from the schools that were mentioning that. It's 35. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. So that's an important bit of information. We would want to go out and do this RFP. I think that that's like a 45-day window or something similar to that.
There's a window of time for the RFP, and then you would need time to review the bidders and identify the apparent successful bidder. And then, there's additional time needed to negotiate the specific contract with that bidder. And then once you have them, there's an additional amount of time, usually a few months, where the announcement will be posted in various places, and the firm will also be actively looking for candidates.
Right.
So there's just a number of months that are built into the process. It takes about 9 months from RFP to completion.
Okay. So there are a number of potential firms in the state. There are schools that have suggested firms. So there's a list, I think, a short list that we have going. I also got a list from the state board of firm names that they have, that schools have been using more recently. And Melanie, I know that we have the name of a firm as well that you provided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My team in preparation for this discussion actually sent me an entire folder from the previous presidential search with what the committees look like and all the RFPs that we put out and the costs for each one.
Great. That's
if you need that information.
Okay. Firm selection criteria, I think, is often based on some standard best practice, and you probably have this in your folder as well, but we're looking for firms that likely have proven community college presidential search experience, commitment to DEI and inclusive recruitment, national reach with knowledge of our regional content and need, transparent process, communication and a frequent communication cadence, and then clear candidate vetting and reference check methodology. So those were some of the kind of top items we're likely going to be looking for. Defining the opportunity, I think oftentimes the search firm will come in and help to identify and clarify whether there are internal candidates that are interested in the process, and then also to help update and review the job description, although there might be something that we start to work on, they will come in and again, help lend their expertise to the job description and leadership profile. I think some key questions to address would be things like, what makes our college distinctive and competitive from the perspective of being a leader here? What does the college most need right now? Could be things like stability, growth, innovation, cultural change, or preservation. What external or internal conditions or constraints exist? What experience, leadership competencies, or other personal qualifications will predict success for the person that enters into this role? Stakeholder engagement and feedback. I think there was a wide variety of ways that people conducted opportunities for feedback. The one I thought that might be most might be useful for us would be to conduct a campus-wide survey of sorts. So faculty, staff, students, community partners that are focused, I think, largely on the questions that I just mentioned above, right? Those key questions to be addressing so that we're getting feedback in a clear and concise way about, what our college community hopes to see in our next leader. Again, this might be something that we run internally, or it might be something that we decide the firm helps out with, but it does feel like if there's a particular waiting period, it might be something we think about putting out into the world in the meantime to get some of that conversation going. And then, the feedback is useful in surveying themes and summarizing, what people are thinking, what's on their mind, what their priorities are. We would want to share that information with the search firm. And the results there can be used to help shape the leadership profile, inform interview questions, and align expectations across stakeholders. So I thought that something like a survey seems like a really important thing for us to do. In terms of the screening process, initial screening would be done by a search firm. A short list would be presented to the trustee co-chairs and internal search team. We would then likely bring in a group, or not bring in a group, but have a group of candidates that probably 10 or fewer candidates to do a preliminary interview. Those preliminary interviews would be conducted by the trustees and the internal team, and possibly the interview panel. Depends really on the bandwidth there. And then that would be done with a set of standardized questions tied to those leadership competencies. And then a final round of a finalist interview round, which would be 3 to 4 finalists. And again, we could decide to do a smaller group for the initial screen and a larger panel for the 3 to 4 finalists. Or, depending on time commitment, we could think about bringing people into both of those processes. Then a final round with the Board of Trustees themselves. So final selection and appointment, the full board would interview and deliberate. We would make sure that we're seeking references and background checks. Contract negotiation be led by the appropriate executive team members, the board leadership and legal counsel, and a public announcement coordinated with the internal, external communications team. I think, we want to make sure that we are thinking through all of this through an equity lens. We want to make sure that we're maintaining confidentiality for people involved in the process and thinking about risk management. So, maintaining consistent confidential protocols throughout the process, using structured evaluation rubrics, communicating with the campus stakeholders to manage expectations, and then again, solicit feedback as well, and then documenting the decision points during the process. So I put together a timeline, but I think that this is probably way off considering what I just heard from Justin. But, we were looking at as soon as we can, I think, thinking through the search firm outreach, review, selection, RFP process. That is likely work that we want to get done in January and February to go through that process. February and March, and again, this is probably pushed out to something like March to April, thinking about job description update, leadership profile, campus-wide survey may be able to be done before that. Active recruitment, again, might take, 30 to 45-day type of window. They probably will be able to do that on a rolling basis, so they'll be continually looking at candidates for the length of time determined. And then finalist interviews and board deliberation sounds like it would be kind of that 7 to 9 month time frame. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I gathered as I was talking to groups. And I think that one thing I think that we do need to decide is whether or not there's agreement on moving forward appointing 2 members of our board to be the co-chairs, and then also to approve the move to bring on a search firm. So does that sound right, Justin, in the things that we'd want to approve in the process here?
Yes.
Yeah, Dr. Penn.
Sure. I still wanted you to take into consideration how engaged faculty will want to be involved in this process, in that you will bump up against faculty being off contract for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that will also be something to factor in that timeline.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess the question for me is talking about special pay. Is this something that if we're asking for interviews to be done over the summer and we're asking for those participants, is that a special pay type of situation that we work through? Because I think having a 3-month period would be difficult for, pauses. Okay.
That has ramifications.
Okay.
Chair Swenson, if I can also add to, if part of the process were to be to have like community forums to collect feedback, you would not have faculty participation in community forums happening over the summer because they wouldn't be on their email to see that those forums were happening. So that's something to take in consideration as well with your calendaring.
So I guess the suggestion I have is a survey, not necessarily a forum style, because of those types of challenges. And we want to reach a broad swath of people, and forums can sometimes be more prohibitive in that way for people. So my suggestion, and again, this may be something that we decide as we get into the kind of the working group on it, is that what I had heard from a number of campuses that they really went to that survey that really could be sent out broadly, because it felt like it allowed for kind of everybody and anybody to participate in that. Yeah. Are there other questions or comments?
Just a quick comment in regard, and I love that this is so detailed, and thank you for putting the draft plan together, Sharmila. It's really detailed and helpful. Potential firm stuff. I'm just curious as to if we have any like information from ACT or anyone else about how those ended up, or what the feedback from those firms were. So I would hate to kind of just spend money, especially in a budget time, unless we have like details as to the strength of those firms, or what was good that they did, or improvements that could have been made from other colleges. And I think a signal to community as well, in selecting an outside firm to essentially come up with a list of candidates, could be something to think about here as well, rather than having an internal team come up with a list of candidates. So those are just some things that are going through my head right now, considering the budget, essentially crisis everyone's in, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that we want to confirm. What I believe that we could use board reserves for this if we decided to do so. So that would be one thing. I will say that it's a tremendous amount of work. It's an incredible amount of work to conduct these searches, and all of the folks that I talked to had hired firms. It does feel like hiring a firm tends to be the best practice these days in this space. But to your point, Jesse, I think that I certainly heard feedback on firms that people preferred versus firms that they felt fell short on in certain spaces. So I think that, again, thinking about what are the parameters for the firm, that we want to make sure they are meeting, and then, doing our best to get some recommendations on the firm, I think, are important. But yeah, that already exists out there. The feedback I got from people on various firms also came with, positive or negative sentiment around them. But my sense is that, and my recommendation would be that we go with a firm, because it's a huge amount of work.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful.
Any other questions or comments or feedback?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Trustee Johnson, thank you for your input there as well. Very needed in times such as these. I would just want to make an open comment for our chair, who has done a spectacular job in leaning into hours of consulting and speaking with different folk who have gone through this process recently. And I just want to say out loud, I think sometimes you all see us once a month, but the realities of the work that goes behind what we do in between the months is very significant. So Sharmila, thank you for your continuous support and reaching for good information, talking to folk on the state level and the ACCT. So I just want to say that out loud.
Thanks. Okay, so I think that we need to make that a formalized. Are these formalized items to add to the general agenda, or are these things that we can just?
But that involves subcommittee. As far as the RF, the college can put out an RF without board action. However, like so no action required.
Okay, great. I guess one question I have is do we have a sense of who the subcommittee? That seemed like it was the two board chairs and then the executive team leads. Do we have a sense of?
I have a document that can help support that question.
Okay,
I can send you.
I guess my question is, do we need to wait for a month to do that? Or is that something where we have a sense of the people that would like to be engaged in this, in addition to you, Melanie? Is there another person that is interested in being engaged to be, it's a question to me of like, are we putting it off another month, or are we able to start the work after today? Are there any thoughts about that?
I guess I have a question. Do we have to get approval on what the makeup of the subcommittee is?
So the board gets to decide what the makeup of the subcommittee is, because the subcommittee of the board is the hiring authority and has full control. They can do it all themselves if they want. And so it just depends on who the board wants.
Does that require a vote?
To establish the subcommittee of the board, yes, it does require a vote.
But not to name the
But not to name a couple
Okay.
of trustees to be responsible for guiding the process for now.
Okay.
It just depends on where you are, how ready you are to say who else will be involved in the process. I do recommend maybe giving a little bit of time. This might be the first time some of them are finding out about this whole subcommittee thing. You may want to give them time to decide whether or not to be involved, because if they're on the subcommittee, they can't also. Oh, I see.
Okay, so today I would suggest that we approve the development of a subcommittee, the members to be named at a later date. Does that work?
Would you like me to share what?
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like we had 2 members of the Board of Trustees. We had a classified employee representative. We had 6 members of faculty.
Okay. Sorry. So I guess what I'm thinking of is, so that is the search committee itself. I'm just defining this as something different, I think. Is that the search committee or is that a?
It was previously
Right.
defined as the subcommittee. I don't know.
So if the committee involves trustees, it can be called a subcommittee. It could also be called a search committee. It's just a naming distinction. It doesn't have a legal difference.
Okay. So leaving here today, if we have 2 trustees that are planning to work on this and we want to get going with Melanie and another member of the executive team, do we need any approval to do that?
No, I do not think you would unless you're ready to establish the search committee.
Okay, then I think we're okay for today. So Melanie, I'm sorry, will you go ahead and tell us who was on the search committee or the subcommittee last time?
Yeah, in addition to the folks mentioned, we had an exempt employee representative, a foundation representative, and a student representative. And then there was a separate section for community representatives. And for the community reps, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
Okay. And previously, Trustee Bowman, I know that we talked about whether or not you might be able to serve with myself as the 2 trustee co-chairs for this, or subcommittee members. Are you open to that? Or Jesse, was there an interest from you? I guess I have just a question as to, obviously I'm in this and committed to doing it. I'm looking for my second.
If Trustee Bowman is available, I think he'd be a great option. Yeah. What do you think, Trustee Bowman?
Something's wrong with my phone. Thank you, Trustee Johnson. I'll follow up with you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Is that something we need to name today?
No, it's not something you have
Okay.
to name.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to be looking for who's going to be the second and confirmation of that here in the near term. Okay. Any other questions or anything else, Melanie, that you'd like to mention today in the meeting here before we kind of start to do some work outside of?
Yeah, no, I just want to thank my team for preparing me for this discussion with all the information. One thing I do note on here is that I don't see, other than myself, members of cabinet, so I don't know, I guess that's for later discussion for the search committee.
Yeah, so what was mentioned to me was that, yeah, at a couple of the other schools, there were 2 cabinet members. So it was the HR person and then 1 other cabinet member. And that they kind of formed the core organizing group with the 2 co-chair trustees. So that's it. So would love to, kind of figure out who from the team. And I don't know if anybody was part of that last time. Danielle, were you part of that last time? Oh, you were not here. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Okay. So I think that's what we'd be looking for, is that nucleus group for organizing. Feels like it's you and I and my counterpart, whoever that is, and then 1 other member of the executive team.
May I chime in? It is taken into consideration with the executive cabinet that there may be individuals who are interested in applying. I don't want them to necessarily expose who they are in the moment. So if we can have an opportunity to step back and have that conversation, and I can follow up with you within a 24-hour time frame.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that
Yep.
would be a better approach.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not looking to have people named today, like I put my fellow trustees on point
Okay.
there, but yeah, I that is totally fine to take some time on that. Okay. Great. Anything else on this topic? Much more to come soon. All right. Thank you. And thank you for the work that you'll be doing to help shepherd this, Melanie. I know that's the big one for you and the team as well. So appreciate that. Okay, I think that is the last item on the study session agenda. So we will bring the study session to a close. All right. Okay. I have 2 minutes to go, so we'll just wait for a moment.
Hey everyone.
Hi. Morning. Jesse back on? Can't see. Jesse. Need to give him an alarm. Right. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is January 22nd, 2026, and this is the general session meeting for the Highline College Board of Trustees. I just want to make a note that the meeting will be recorded, and we will start off by approving the minutes and then get into public comment. We have the minutes for the regularly scheduled meeting that occurred on December 11th, 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed with nay, no abstentions. And I'll just let the minutes reflect that all trustees are present. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on into public comment. I think I see that we had two people signed up for public comment today. Danielle, would you mind calling on those?
Yes, today we will start with Professor Diego Luna. Julie has a microphone for you.
Good afternoon or good morning, folks. I'm Dr. Diego Luna. I am the Division Chair in Social Sciences and faculty in Ethnic and Gender Studies, as a host of other things on this campus. It's good to see everyone today. And the purpose that I'm here today is threefold. The first one of which is to speak not entirely, but not exclusively, but primarily on behalf of faculty in my division who have concerns with the proposed timeline for the VPA search. Several other colleagues I do know submitted statements to the board, so I won't dwell on this too much. And I also have two other things to say that are interrelated, but not quite. But I just want to acknowledge that in general, higher education practice, it's not a decision without risk to bring on someone who's going to be VPA if they're, for lack of a better term, their future boss has it not yet been decided. This statistically has shown that it can impact the pool, like the types of people like, oh, I'm totally going to go apply to a job where I don't even know who's going to be my boss in the future. There's that. And then there also is, and again, I'm not saying this would happen, but there's also the risk of perchance when we do have a new president, as it can happen when a new administrator on that level comes in. What if they're like, well, I'm going to have this VPA move on, and then we got to go back and do a search again. So, and I say this in acknowledgement that there's a lot of other things pressing down on us, many of which are far more scarier. But I did feel there was I should do my due diligence, as these were concerns that are expressed to be my faculty in my division, as well as other faculty across the school. And in speaking about other things that are very much on a lot of our minds, I did want to elevate just for a brief second the ongoing stress and fear that Department of Homeland Security shenanigans are impacting on our campus, particularly since their actions in South King County and within our service district have been ramping up over the last several weeks. For reasons that I'm sure all of us will understand, I'm not going to be naming names in this moment, as this is public record. But I did just want to acknowledge to the board that if you have not, I'm sure you have been briefed by the very purposeful and purposeful and professional support here in our community that has been made and continues to be made for the most vulnerable in our community, given the times we're in. But if you haven't, I would encourage you to get on that, for lack of a better term. And I also, again, I'm not going to name names, but I also just want to elevate the folks in our community who are the most vulnerable, and everyone who does direct work with those folks, right? These are very scary times. And again, I feel like if I'm going to have a mic for a few minutes, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge and elevate those concerns. And lastly, in a hope to bring some levity to the time I have today, I just wanted to announce to the board, and if anyone has any questions, you can, of course, hit me up, that on March 4th, a Wednesday, Highline College, in collaboration with the Policy Camp at the University of Washington, is going to be hosting Policy Camp here at Highline College. So this is going to bring students from across our SBCTC system, say that 5 times fast, to campus for a really packed morning. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to about 2 p.m. of learning about public policy and how they can get involved. Myself and Jennifer Ritchie, tenured faculty in political science, are leading this with the support of our VP-DT, Dr. Maribel Jimenez, as well as some staff from the UW Policy Camp. So there's going to be a policy hackathon from like 10:30 to 12. There's going to be a resource fair. There's going to be a bunch of what I'm calling like a bunch of TED Talks in the morning, like real quick 20, 30-minute talks about what is public policy and some of the public policies that a lot of our students, including our awesome student government, have put forth as things that are of interest to students, not only here at Highline, but across our system. And again, if you want information, we just now got the final spiffy flyers. Feel free to hit me up or Jennifer Ritchie. But yeah, and to the board, I would say, I guess this is the ask part, is that me and Jennifer Ritchie are still on the hunt for not only folks, community organizations, most particularly, though not exclusively in our service district, who would be good fits for that resource fair. So really anyone who involved in public policy, even if it's not in a formal governmental capacity, please send them our way. And we're also looking for alumni from Highline College who in various ways have been involved in public policy since their while here at Highline and then afterward, to be a part of that morning TED Talk series. So if any names are coming to mind, any organizations, please feel free to hit me up or Jennifer Ritchie. And yeah, I thank y'all for the time, and I'll see the remaining.
And our second public comment today was from Patricia McDonald, but I don't see her online or in the room. So I think we are good to move forward.
Okay, thank you for that. And if there is a flyer, as was mentioned on that event, would love to make sure that the trustees get it too. I love that we're doing this. I know that we don't comment on public comment generally, but I just want to say I love that we're doing that. So thank you for those efforts. Okay, we are going to move on to, we don't have any action items today, nothing scheduled, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our standing reports. And we have first up Highline College Education Association. And is Douglas with us? Okay.
That's okay. It works now. Good morning, everybody. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Douglas Avella Castro, and this is my first report to the Board of Trustees as HCEA's local union president. Before I begin, I'd like to take a moment. I know he's not here right now, but I'd like to take a moment to thank Dr. James Payton for his years of dedicated service in HCEA leadership that has translated to meaningful outcomes for our students, faculty, and for the Highline community as a whole. It's been my great pleasure to work side by side with Dr. Payton in transforming the faculty union into our faculty union. So he'll be sorely missed, but he's still around all the time, down the hall. Lately, as a faculty member, I've been thinking about the value of what we do at this institution. And I've been thinking about what makes our faculty here at Highline special. This past week, in preparation for lobbying in Olympia, I had a chance to hear stories from our faculty in education, respiratory care, and human services. I learned about the critical work they do in serving our students, and I learned about the critical work our students do in serving their communities when they leave our programs. Virtually all of our respiratory care students get licensed, and all of them find work in major hospitals, both here in King County and Pierce County as well. Our students are there taking care of us, our parents, and they are literally helping our communities breathe. Our early childhood education BAS program is making it possible for folks who would otherwise fall through the cracks and be forgotten, get the preparation they need to succeed in school. This is the preparation that so many working class and poor folks in the state never experience. I also learned how our human services program often serves as a lifeline to our most vulnerable populations, many of whom are suffering from unstable housing and past struggles with addiction and other forms of suffering generated by economic and social injustice. Then I learned how these same students, when they finish their BAS degrees, go right back into these communities and work with the same vulnerable populations in our homeless shelters, our schools, and community centers. On Monday, along with the largest group of lobbying volunteers ever amassed from Highline College, I, along with my fellow union members and alongside Highline administrators Josh and Shakira, got to tell these stories to multiple legislators. And these legislators are what stands between us and the gutting of higher education. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Josh and to Shakira for coming down to Olympia with us on Martin Luther King Day and doing some incredible work, making sure that we protect higher education. As I reflected on these conversations I had with faculty in these programs, along with the faculty in LCAP, who, as exhausted as they are, continue to fight for our students on the front lines, I began to realize the core value of what we do here at Highline. At the end of the day, through our work at the college, we are constantly reaffirming one core principle: that our students matter. That their lives matter, that their families' lives matter, their communities matter. This is reflected in our day-to-day work, and it is true regardless of where our students come from and regardless of the social, political, and economic circumstances that are constantly working to devalue and dehumanize. As HCA president, I just wanted to remind us all that working to make sure our students matter, that we always work to respect and honor their humanity, that requires us as employees also work in conditions where we too are valued. Dehumanizing and devaluing conditions do not lead to outcomes where students feel valued, where they feel confident that they matter. I want to come back to this in a minute. First, some encouraging things. HCA and the college administration, through a strong collaborative effort to serve students, have made some good progress on addressing our commencement scheduling issue. I would like to thank Dr. Izanu for her pragmatic and thoughtful leadership on this issue. Thus far, the negotiation and implementation of the new contract has been the product of the spirit of collaboration and commitment to our students. Perhaps the existential threat to higher ed has a strong clarifying impact on labor and management's abilities to effectively find common ground. Nevertheless, We're finding it, and we're making progress. That said, the national level stuff continues to generate deep anxiety and very real material impacts on our students, communities, and employees. We need the college's support and guidance through this now more than ever. As of this moment, HCEA, in collaboration with the college administration, has developed a committee dedicated to adjusting to national level policy as it manifests in our classrooms and throughout our campus. Thus far, the commitment shown by the administration is encouraging. I want to thank especially Mark Lentini for his work in these committees alongside the union folks. I've been part of it. Whether or not we find our way through this difficult time ahead depends on a lot of factors, not least of all our commitments backed by tangible outcomes to our communities. In a way, this isn't just about the forces out there that threaten our mission or our existence as an institution that seeks to create a just world through education. This is also about who we are. It's also about whether we are ready to be the future that we want to see. When I was a kid, my abuela told me a story about how during the Great Depression in Puerto Rico, her father, a local farmer, opened up all the land he had to neighboring families to collectively farm and grow food. I asked her why he did that, and she sent me, of course, to read the Bible. She said, you know, mira, papi, you got to go read the Bible now, and that answers all your questions. And of course, I was like, okay, fine, I'll go look and see what it is. And she said, read Matthew 25, 42 through 45. And I said, okay, fine, I'll read it. And I did. And it said, for I was hungry and you gave me no food. I was thirsty and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger and you did not welcome me, naked and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison and you did not visit me. Then they also answered saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or stranger and naked or sick and in prison and did not minister to you? And then he will answer them saying, truly I say to you, as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And it clicked why my grandfather did what he did, or my great-grandfather did what he did. I would like us all to think as employees who we are is most clearly indicated by how we treat the least among us. And if we're going to go ahead and fight for injustice out there, we need to make sure that we're ready to do it in here. I realize this might ruffle some feathers, but we can't succeed in our mission until we reckon with this. Classified staff need to bargain at home. Our home. This is how we show them, not tell them, that they matter. This is how we show ourselves that we mean it when we say that our students and our communities matter. Our classified staff make it possible for us to carry out our mission, vision, and values. We cannot tell them to voice their grievances elsewhere when working together to resolve those grievances at home is what makes us who we are, what aligns us with our mission. I need to be honest here. Employee morale is suffering, and we cannot effectively meet the challenges coming our way without creating the necessary harmony in our own house. I humbly ask you to hear these words. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And welcome to your first meeting. We really appreciate you being here and sharing with us. Always very important for us to hear your voice. So thank you for that. Okay, we're going to go on to our WPEA. Is there a representative today? All right. Hi.
Good morning, everybody. All right, so first, we are very happy that these board meetings are now being recorded and posted on your YouTube. It was a big concern of a lot of our members to have this sort of transparency, and we're very happy that this has happened. And next, we're also happy that the governor included our WPA contract in his proposed supplemental budget, but we still are working, sending postcards to our representatives and our senators, making sure that it is included in the final supplemental budget. And in doing so, some of us are going down to the lobby day in February to talk to our representatives and senators. And finally, I want to thank Doug for what he just said about keeping bargaining local. We are entering a new year and there's transition in leadership. And we're hoping that moving forward, the temperature can be lowered and labor relations become more harmonious, and keeping bargaining local is a big part of our concern there. And that's it for classified staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and reporting out. We'll go to Faculty Senate, and I think we have Kathy Cartwright in for Sangeeta today. Welcome, Kathy.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. So in our January 7 meeting, the Vice President for Academic Affairs joined us to discuss the course approval process because we had some concerns about that. She shared a flow chart that Senate felt was a great start towards transparency in the process, but it triggered questions that have been sent to her for response. One of the questions asked was around who does what in the process and where does Senate fit into the whole thing. She next talked about the conclusion of Dr. Mosby's service to the college and Dr. Penn's transition to the interim president role. She shared the themes that came out from the listening sessions held in December, acknowledging that there is a lot of work to be done ahead, but it's going to take time and effort. It's not going to be an overnight magic, it's all of a sudden fixed. And we recognize that, and we appreciate the acknowledgement. It was noted by a senator that they have seen some positive changes, such as communication and training from financial aid and a higher visibility on campus by executive leadership. And there's a request that it continue. Keep up the progress. In our January 22nd meeting, which I was unable to attend because of a TRC conflict, Senate discussed the new policy development process under consideration by the Policy Development Council. So I'm just pulling that out email. I have no clue what that means, but because I wasn't there, Senate is concerned about what the new process could mean for shared governance. We also reviewed a new degree proposal for an associate's in applied science in animation and character design. Doesn't that sound fun? Finally, and I'm echoing an earlier concern heard, Senate has concern regarding how the search for the VPAA before the search for the college president might negatively affect the ability to attract candidates and lead to further leadership instability at the college. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Kathy, for being here with us. I'd like to welcome our associated students of Highline College. Jasmine, please come and join us.
Hello, and good morning. So I have three things to talk about today. And the first is acknowledging that there's a House Bill 2550 that was drafted as a direct result of the legislative breakfast that we held here. And that's the speakers that we had that talked about transportation were Isabel and Prem, and they spoke on the need for accessible and affordable transportation. So our hope with this bill is that we'll get free transportation for registered college students. And that would be like an extension from having the maximum age for that being 18 to extend to students also. The second thing is CTC Legislative Advocacy Day. I'll talk about some of the issues that we intend to bring forward to our legislators as student governments across Washington state. The first would be free high eligibility 2-year programs. I'll just pull up my notes for this to provide some context. research conducted by Washington State University unveiled that there's a that was in 2025, a 16.1% statewide decrease in enrollment. And there's a lot of factors that go into this, but the major one is the cost of higher education. So there's two bills that we'd be requesting to have passed. That's House Bill 1495 that would establish a college promise pilot program, making higher education more accessible to students in Eastern Washington. In addition, we would ask for House Bill 1568 to be passed, as this modifies financial aid eligibility to benefit more students. So we're just hoping that these two would set the ball rolling towards having free, high eligibility two-year programs. The second thing is housing accessibility and affordability. I think, as we know, most community colleges don't offer housing for students, and a third of college students last year did report that they'd experienced housing insecurity. So I think that one's self-explanatory. The last one would be mandatory student trustees at CTCs. I think this one requires much more context if you haven't heard about this before, but students' representatives are currently required on all four-year public institutions, Board of Regents, but at CTCs, they may only be created by a vote of the Board of Trustees. This results in policies that may fail to reflect student needs, leading to inequities in access, affordability, and campus experience. Lastly, I will talk about SNA. So in the SNA committee, we're currently reassessing student worker positions to clearly define roles that the students are expected to fulfill and ensure that they align with Killian guidelines and the financial code. So I'll report back once we've finalized and decided on steps forward. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a great report, and appreciate all the work being done there. Okay, we think are moving. Oh, the subtitles. Oh, thank you for that. We're taking a quick tech pause to see if we can get the subtitles working again. Okay, well, I'll keep on. Oh, there I am. Okay, thank you. Thank you for noticing that. Please do call that out anytime you see that happening. We want to make sure people can read what's going on. Okay, and next we have the Highline College Foundation. Sharon, please join us.
Understand. Good morning, everyone. As many of you know, at our annual signature event, Thunderbird Soars, similar to a silent auction, instead of bidding on baskets that maybe would be rejects from your latest yard sales in your neighborhood, we have been using what we call experiences, where we offer experiences for donors to sign up. So supporters sign up for these unique experiences, bringing community, campus, and supporters together in small groups to engage. And since the November 22nd event, we have had at least 3 experiences. A few dozen donors, for example, came to the mast for Sip and Paint, where a wonderful guru, IT expert Gary McCune, led the rock painting. Others led the sipping. Russ Higley and Ariel Wohab led donors on an evening at the mast under the stars to discover and learn more about marine life in the moonlight. Josh and Shakira hosted a group at the Rainier Club, where we took a fabulous tour, learned about this amazing building, the history of King County community leaders who have frequented the many floors and rooms within. Spending time in these smaller groups has been amazingly valuable. We share ideas, get to know our community members in a much more close and intimate way. This has, over the past couple of years, led to real growth in collaborations. So it's been a real success. This Saturday, for example, this one sold out, an evening at the Marina Mercantile with an exclusive tasting hosted by our own board treasurer, Richard Mockler. And tonight, you may have heard, is our next experience. It is Vibe Bingo, and it's an interactive bingo extravaganza. There are still tickets left, so we'd love to see you here. The doors open at 5 p.m. in Building 8, right around the corner here. On some financial notes, the foundation provided $35,000 in academic emergency tuition scholarships to 50 students for winter quarter. And under the direction of our great Tanisha Williams, the spring quarter applications will be opening up toward the end of this quarter. Some other funding highlights briefly include receiving $107,000 to support Summer STEM, the Summer STEM Bridge Program, and Achieve internships. Additionally, $100,000 in combined support from two wonderfully generous families, two separate families. $15,000 additional has been added to the Tricia Moreno's Memorial Nursing Scholarship, of which we know one of the first students that was helped by that scholarship is slated to graduate this quarter. We're really excited to be there for that. $10,000 from BECU Foundation for academic gaps, $5,000 from Muckleshoot Indian Tribe, and $5,000 from King County Support for Veterans Assistance Funds are just a few of the additional wonderful donors we have to report. In the foundation, we are very committed to our mission. We are very encouraged by the students and their commitment and excitement for their education amidst everything that's going on. And we remain committed to keep working as hard as we can to provide any assistance to help them meet their goals. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just take a moment to just say thank you to everybody who is coming here and participating and lifting up these issues. I think that, particularly after an observance like MLK Day, Dr. King, I think is embodied in each one of you because you are constantly out there advocating for those that are not able to be here, that don't have a seat at the table, that really need to have these issues lifted up on their behalf. So I just want to say thank you. I think that spirit is embodied in everybody that spoke today so far, and we really value the time that you take to come here and share your thoughts and concerns with us. So just want to acknowledge that. Say thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our area reports, and let's start with academic affairs. Dr. Keep on looking the wrong way. Where are you? Oh, you're okay.
Thank you, Board Chair. Thanks, everyone. Hi, everyone. Aloha and good morning. Happy New Year. Happy 2026. I am been reflecting a lot about my time here. I've been here 10 months now, and it's just been such a pleasure and such an honor to be sitting in this role. I really think about all of the things that were just stated with regard to community, with regard to access, with regard to student learning. Everything that is in the board meeting, I would want my board report to stand. But I am very mindful of this week and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Week. After this our Board of Trustees meeting, I know Dr. Darrell Bryce is leading a film and discussion in Building 8 until 1:30 on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And also, I did share with the academic affairs, my academic affairs colleagues, some of my thoughts of the impact of Dr. King on my own life. I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs. I wanted to share a personal reflection on Dr. King's impact on me. When I left Honolulu, Hawaii to attend a school in Pullman, go Cougs, I experienced homesickness and culture shock. A profound and impactful realization was that I was often the one only brown person in my classroom. I struggled to navigate a college experience in which I did not see myself reflected in the student demographics, curriculum, faculty, or in the campus environment. So during that time, I was drawn to Dr. King's speeches and writings. I listened to his words repeatedly and studied his life. His vision and mission and wisdom were instrumental in shaping my own thoughts on social justice, service, community, equity, and my own sense of vocation and calling. His words buoyed, renewed, and transformed me. If Dr. King were alive today, I believe his teachings calls leaders to examine how policies, practices, and procedures support equity, student success, and inclusion. Dr. King encourages institutions like ours to be intentional and purposeful in creating spaces of validation and belonging. And then lastly, Dr. King invites us as a community to really demonstrate daily decisions and actions that contribute to becoming a more loving and peaceful society. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll next go to Equity, Diversity, and Transformation with Dr. Menace.
Thank you. Trustee. Oh,
Thank you. Good. I like that we have our watchers. For those of you online, we're just fixing the caption, closed caption here. There we go. Okay. Please continue.
I think we're up and running now, right? Okay. So good morning, everyone online and everyone present here, trustees. And thank you, Dr. Lozano, for your words and for everybody else's words. I echo the sentiment of how it just, aligns with MLK Day and all of the things that we've heard today. And so for our my report, I'm going to let that stand, but I wanted to highlight that today we're hosting, actually, as we speak, the King County Promise partners are here on our campus today. They will be here all day, and I just wanted to remind us that we continue that work, and we have a lot of information that's telling us that that program has been very successful, specifically around helping our students connect with transforming sustainable wages. And so, so the partners that are here are Highline Public Schools, Northwest Education, and the King County Department of Education, who is holding our funding through the King County about for the Promise program. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then I'll just let my report set.
Thank you. I appreciate us hosting that, and it is such an important program. So appreciate that, and would love to hear more about how things go in that conversation. Okay, let's go back to Marco with Administrative Services standing in for Dr. Pham today.
Good morning, everybody. Our report stands as submitted, but I do want to recognize Tu and Jasmine, since both of them are here, for the hard work that they're doing with our student groups. So thank you for all the hard work you do.
Thank you. Let's go with IT Services, Tim.
Thanks, Trustee Swenson. I was going to let my report stand, but we are in the process of shifting ITS out to a standalone from underneath the president's office, and it looks like it didn't get posted. So I will speak about it. I'm not blaming anybody. It's just a fact. So we only had one item in there. It was kind of a big one for ITS, which was a major shift in our student activation and how we handle how all users reset passwords. Basically, due to the retirement of some backend software that nobody else outside of ITS would have ever seen or touched. But we did it to save some significant costs. It was a tool that we've used for pretty much the entire time I have been at the college, which has been a long time in one form or another. And just the way technology has evolved, it's become redundant, and we had to do some work to get it out of our systems and move these processes to things that we are already using and paying for elsewhere, like Microsoft and Okta. So in the same time, we modernized the look and feel of the way that brand new students activate and gave them a simpler option to activate. That we've repeatedly heard that that's a barrier for new students that are coming into the college. And we also moved our password change process to our Okta tenant, which allows for better self-service for people, which will hopefully take the load off of the help desk if more people are able to be trained to be able to reset themselves. I do want to call out a few folks on our information system administration team who put some significant work into this. Matthew Feebig and Kyle Evans, Mike Kromerick are application developers and system administrators who put a significant amount of work into making this happen. And then also thank the Technology Support Services Help Desk team who always takes the brunt when we have a major change in this and people need help getting through it. So thanks to those folks for helping see this through. Thanks.
Thank you, and thank you for getting me connected again this morning when my password had expired there. I always appreciate you, Tim, being available to us. Okay, let's go to HR with VP Law.
All right, I too will let my report stand as written. I just want to add that I'd like to thank you to Dr. Doug and the HCEA for the collaboration on commencement and the transparency that we were able to have with one another during that process. I also am really happy to say that we have our second labor management meeting with WPEA. Those are back on the calendar after being gone for quite some time. And I'm just really excited and hopeful that those lines of communication have been open and that we're making some progress in terms of internal change on campus with the needs of our classified staff as well. So I'm looking forward to meeting with them this afternoon and every quarter.
Thank you. Institutional advancement.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, close to it. I don't want Dr. Doug's head to get too big with that new haircut, but I do also want to thank him for inviting us to be part of our legislative visits on Monday. That was a real special day for a number of reasons. But I want to go to President Jasmine and say it was most special because when we arrived there and we heard about House Bill 2550 for the first time, and then heard that Representative Jamila Taylor, an alum of Highline College and out of the 30th and Federal Way, drafted that legislation because of our student speakers at the legislative breakfast that you all hosted. And we've hosted that breakfast. You all have hosted that breakfast for many years. And that's the first time I've seen that quick of a direct action from a student speaker or set of speakers to legislators taking action. So that was very exciting. And, you know, we'll continue to talk about that and the other pieces of legislation that you've mentioned and the ones that have come through that we're, you know, aware to continue to keep funding. I do want to honor our WPA and say that we were consistently mentioning that to our representatives as well as to make sure that in the budget writing that continues to happen. And we do that all above board in the way that we're allowed to engage with our legislators. And we want to continue to be with you and support whether it's our students or community members and really share the information. We can't tell people how they should be inclined politically, but we can definitely share the information so that they're aware of the issues and what's on the docket. And we'll continue to do that with Shakira Erickson's leadership and the support of our team. And speaking of transportation, I want to thank everybody who was involved in the celebration of the opening of the Federal Way Link Extension, the Kent Des Moines station. If you haven't stepped onto the station platform yet or haven't taken a ride on light rail down to Federal Way, please do. If you do it on a day that the sun is shining, when you step back onto the Kent Des Moines station platform and look out west, it's probably one of the most beautiful spots along the one line, and it's a great way to welcome people to our campus. But if you want to go and conveniently get to Federal Way, whether it's to visit the shops, the restaurants, short dash down to the hub, it just has made it that much more convenient. A few of us were able to do that for a Federal Way Chamber of Commerce meeting earlier this month, and we'll continue to do that for some of the monthly opportunities we have, as well as heading up north into Seattle. So we're just so excited for what the extension of the light rail to Highline College and the Highline Express means for our campus and our community. And again, once again, as we've said before, thanking our students for being the active voice that helped get that station located here and made it possible. So if anybody ever doubts what the power of our students' voice, you just have to look across the street to see what's possible.
Yeah, great success stories. And I will be watching 2550 as well. So if there's an opportunity for us to talk about it while we're down there, we'll definitely do the same. I know that a couple of us find ourselves down there pretty frequently these days. So we'll look for a time to get together with our legislators and talk about those items as well. I'm going to be down there on the 29th for a day, advocacy day for foster youth and young adults in our state. And this might be another good one to add when we're in talking to our offices. So try and do that. Okay. Last, we have student services. We have Tony Garcia. Thank you, Tony, for joining us. You're online here and you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. This being my first meeting, I wasn't sure what to expect, so I'm just taking it all in. But I want to take this time to thank the board trustees and also executive cabinet for the vote of confidence and placing me in this position to be able to experience this role. And pretty much this is what I'm going to school for to move up and be able to lead the college, whether it's this one or a different one. But I'm looking forward to the experience and really collaborating with executive cabinet and helping them with their great leadership skills and just adding where I can. But with that said, I think I also want to thank Dr. Penn for actually doing my report because I was on medical leave and then a quick vacation after that compounded together. So thank you for doing that for me. But I read it over and the report stands as is.
Great. Thank you and welcome to the meeting and thank you for stepping into the role. We appreciate that. Okay, I'd like to now turn, and are there any comments, questions, or anything else from our other trustees? Can I just give you a moment if there's anything?
No, thanks, Chair Swenson. Just want to say welcome, Tony. Sorry to hear you were on medical leave. And, I think I would be remiss if I didn't, acknowledge the great success of our soccer teams between Skylar and Marco getting Coach of the Year, for the women's team being the runners-up in the conference, and for the men's team being the champions. So I noticed that snuck its way into the report, which I certainly caught.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for lifting that up. Okay, I will go ahead then and hand it over to our interim president, Dr. Penn.
Thank you. Still morning. Good morning. Good morning, members of the board, and all that are here, both virtually and present in the room. It's wonderful to see you. I do want to start off by saying specifically because the work that we do is very much aligned with supporting students. It is always a joy to be able to look out, even at board member meetings, to see students present and engaged. Thank you so much for being here. If it were not for you, we would not be here. So continue to work hard and to continue to engage with us and partner. That's paramount. So thank you so much for being here this morning. I will say that the report that I wrote for this month's board meeting will stand. It was a little bit lengthier as far as verbiage is concerned, less bullets, but very similar to others in the room who acknowledge Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There is information there if you have an opportunity to review that information. You'll see that much like I shared with the college community and encouraged people to move into service, not a day off, but a day on, that was reflected in my board report as well. It's been quite busy around campus, different spaces and places. It's really always wonderful after the holidays to come back. It's cold, but to see students ebbing and flowing and moving throughout the college community, the excitement and enthusiasm of faculty being engaged, and of course, all of those who helped us provide the support with students and faculty to get the tough work done. So appreciative of everyone being back, engaged. We have a lot of work to do. And I just want to share that with my part, a couple of bullets that come to light. First of all, I have made the physical move from building 6 over to building 12. I have both Danielle and Julie, who are very much in support of helping if folks have opportunity or need to talk with me. My door, unless I'm in a meeting, is open. And I am, available to have some conversation as long as there is time permitting for both of us. So I've been also working and communicating. I'm trying to do that consistently with the Board of Trustees. I do send a weekly update about where I am, my ebb and flow, whether that be here on campus or in community. And that I am also sending out weekly communication to the college community. That will continue. I think that's imperative. You'll also see me out and about a little bit more. Been trying to get over into different areas of the college community, and I will, like the rest of executive cabinet, that was an ask, and we will follow up and follow through. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that. Tony is over in Building 6 right now, and we'll hold down student services, and I have moved over to Building 12. Strong engagement legislative session. This is a short session, 60-day session. And I want to thank both Josh Gershman and Shakira Erickson for helping me to lift into this. I don't know if all of you know this about me, but I did work for several years at the State Board of Community and Technical Colleges down in Olympia, and had my hands in some of the work related to legislative session, helping to prepare colleges and helping to support those efforts. But it's very different looking at it from the lens of the president. And so Shakira and Josh have been very instrumental in putting me in front of the right people, setting up consistent meetings. We have the days outlined on my calendar. Well, I'll have an opportunity to talk to key legislative personnel and even our lobbyists. I had an opportunity to meet with him last week, and to partner with some of the other colleges in the system in a consortium so that we can learn, grow, develop, and understand better how we can collaborate and advocate for our college individually, but holistically for the system. So thank you so much to them. I can tell you that on the docket this legislative session are some really big issues concerning funding for the entire system. I think that our legislators are not really key and attuned to how much it does in fact take to run our college systems, and that there is great threat of us not having the funding holistically. I'm talking system-wide to do the work that we need to do in the two-year system. And so that's something that is very much part of the conversation that I'm having with other chancellors and presidents as I'm attending what they call WACT Wednesdays that has a C on it. That's where all the presidents and chancellors come together. And also, I will be at that meeting next week. Running Start is also something that is very much a part of the conversation, and again, looking at the numbers and of the headcount and also the FTE. We're strong in our system with regard to Running Start, yet we are understanding that the legislators are wanting to pull back on funding or to look at a different model. And that is something that the presidents and chancellors in the system are really focused on and having some dedicated conversation about. And then one of the last things I'll say is the consolidation. I've been in the system for quite some time. And once again, we're back to looking at conversations related to consolidating, putting campuses together to streamline. And again, community, it's about community college, right? And what we do here at this community college is very different, even if you go several miles down the road, and meeting the needs of the community in which we serve is important. And so consolidation is something else that's on the lips, the minds of some of our legislators, and we are really operating hard to talk about our relevance and where we sit and how we serve communities individually while also looking at holistically. So those are some of the things I've been thinking about and reading about, and that in recent meetings, presidents and chancellors have been discussing. I do want to let the college community know that along with executive cabinet, we are still leaning in and looking at the feedback that you provided with regard to the listening sessions. I think a week and a half ago, I sent out to you what those themes happen to be. And along with executive cabinet, we are combing through that information. And very similar to what I articulated in last week's communication to the community, that today, one of the things that you asked for is greater opportunities for hybrid and information that can be recorded and posted so that folks who cannot be here have an opportunity to look at that at a later date. And so evidence today that your voice matters and that we're hearing you and we're following up and following through. What you should expect at the latter part of this week, today is Thursday, so tomorrow is I'm working hard, and the executive cabinet members and I have been our executive cabinet has been taking a look, going through those things again and looking at ways and means in which we can address things immediately. And so what will come to light over the next, I am really going to try, instead of sending out my president message in the communication that I have been, I'm going to try tomorrow. It may take me a little bit more time, so it might not be until Monday, the earlier part of next week. But we have some other information that we want to share with you to say, we heard you. Here is what we are going to implement in the now. And so please be on the lookout for that. Strategic planning is still very much a thing. We cannot move too far off the path. We have an accreditation site visit that is looming, and Dr. Zanu and other members of the board, Tim Rye in particular, helping to lead that charge around conversations with regard to strategic planning. And so we had this past week at the board, at the executive cabinet meeting, some re-centering and coming back to say, are we on point? Are we moving forward? We have some good work in that area. And once again, that information will we'll roll out some information to the greater college community very soon. I will say the same thing for Guided Pathways. We have a report that is due. Remind me, is that March 20th? March 20th. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. March 20th. There is a report that needs to be turned into the state board. So, you know, we're rubbing our eyes, getting rid of the holidays, got that in our rearview mirror, and we're really dialed in and working on making sure that we not only meet that deadline, but that we do so with fidelity and that we are accountable to what that work entails and making sure that we're reporting accordingly. Let me see. The last two things I want to talk about is, I want to Tony Garcia stepping in, and he's really quite phenomenal in the work that he does. I shared with the Board of Trustees his bio and his resume, and I think that he will represent the Student Service Division in a manner that is necessary and will be appreciated. And so he's very much a collaborator, and I would expect that those of you who have any questions and would like to follow up with Student Services, that Tony can stand in that gap and help to support that work. So we're excited that you're stepping in and that you'll be able to join Executive Cabinet. And then I'll round out my talk with you today about something that we don't talk about very often, and that is Campus View. Remember Campus View? Some folks brought it up with housing, and but I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the residents who reside in Campus View and their fall quarter GPAs. I do get regularly, and Tony will begin to receive data from Jordan Hamill about how students are doing and what's transpiring over there. And what I will share with you says to me that it is attributed to a sense of belonging, and that students who are residing there holistically overall feel at home, feel safe, and that there's a level of stability there. What Jordan reported to me is that 18 students who reside at Campus View earned a 4.0 GPA in fall quarter. An additional 26 residents earned a 3.5 GPA, and that the average Campus View resident had 12 units or 12 credits with a 2.98 GPA. And so I think that's important to share and let the community know that along with us, even though Campus View, there's a third-party COCM entity that helps us to make sure that the facility and the buildings and the matrix and all of the stuff that you guys don't care about, that Josh and I have to lean into, and Michael, but all of that is working. I think that we are moving in a direction with that collaboration that is really important. And I'm excited about that. So I wanted to say thank you to Jordan. He may not be listening, but he might listen to the recording later. Thank you for sharing that data. And we will continue to highlight some of the great things that are happening in that area of our college community. So with that, if there are no questions from the board, I will let my report stand and pass it back to you.
Thank you. That's awesome. We're glad to hear that both the heat is on and that they're fired up about their education as well. So all important. And I love that holistic approach to, tracking and supporting students kind of throughout the large menu of items that our student needs and that they're living at Campus View is something that we love to be able to offer as a resource to them, and just appreciate that approach all around. And I just want to call out again our appreciation for you, Dr. Penn, in the way that you've leaned in. Obviously, there is a lot going on for us on campus, and there's a lot to celebrate, and it's also a difficult time of transition in so many spaces. So just want to acknowledge the way that you've stepped up so quickly and leaned in. Again, we just appreciate and respect you, and know that we are in good hands with you. So we appreciate all the work you're doing. And then as a domino effect, anytime something like this is going on, all of the other people that are stepping in to help support in various ways, whether that be Tony or the other exec team members, all of you as well are part of that, leaning in to make sure that things run smoothly, or as smooth as possible, or that we identify what the challenges and issues are and that we bring those things to light as well. So just want to note that. And with that, I don't think that we have any unscheduled business for today. So we will go ahead and move on to adjournment. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Blessings.